Thank you everyone for tuning in to the Urban Network Podcast. This podcast coincides with a monthly networking group. If you're interested in free networking events, go to urbannetwork.biz. Now, today's guest is a special guest. I'm a huge fan of his work and his businesses, Matt Jacobson. He's the co-founder of Sizzle Pie, an award-winning pizza empire, that originated in Portland, Oregon. And now it has 4 locations, I believe, in Portland, and now has locations in Eugene and Reno, which is pretty exciting. And he also founded Relapse Records in the 1990s, which signs and promotes metal artists, grindcore, and that's super cool. And that's been going for about over 30 years now, which is pretty impressive. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So you are in some really awesome industries, I gotta say. It could be really stressful being a business owner, but you picked some fun industries, pizza being one, metal music being another with Relapse Records. Tell me, what's the most fun part of your day? What do you enjoy most about both of those businesses?
Well, just for the record, actually I sold the record label a few years ago. Okay. But I'm super proud of everything that I did with Relapse. And I'm also really proud to see it continue in the spirit that I established with, the really good people at the helm. Basically, as part of that whole scenario, I tried to find someone that would kind of let it be exactly what it is. So that's really awesome. And what's my favorite part of my day? It depends. That was a lot easier question to answer before the pandemic. The pandemic has been really stressful, and I pretty much am on Zoom calls and just on email and phone calls all the time. But my favorite part of a day, which isn't every day, but I love when it's time to sample new recipes, new menu items. That's always a fun process. Actually, sometimes I'll bring pizza to events. We've sponsored a lot of stuff for local nonprofits and community organizations, and I love it when you walk in the door with a stack of pizzas and people are excited. That's one of my favorite parts of the pizza business, is just being able to share that with people and seeing their enthusiasm for it.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Sizzle Pie, it's supposed to be a never-ending pizza party. And
yes, that's the idea.
Yeah, it definitely has that feel to it. I moved back to Portland after going to college in Ashland in 2015, and you founded Sizzle Pie in 2011, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah, and it's been a part of my life in numerous ways. I moved back to Portland. I did the whole bar hopping thing as a young 20-year-old, and would go to Ron Tom's with friends, and end up at Sizzle Pie in the early morning or late hours of the night, just enjoying pizza on East Burnside. And so that was a great location. And then I got an internship, a marketing internship downtown by the Big Pink, and me and my friend, we'd go to the Sizzle Pie on West Burnside every Wednesday for lunch. We'd meet there during the lunch breaks, while we're starting our careers, which was fun. And now I live in the Hollywood district, and I get to go to the window. You have pizza to go, you have beer to go, and it just goes to show how universal it is. You could be a driven vegan family, a young professional, or a hedonistic early 20-year-old, and Sizzle Pie is just a great place for whoever you are. Yeah.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah. So how did you get into the pizza industry after being in metal for so long? Can you tell me a little bit about what started that and how that, process was for you?
Sure. Everything I've done out of a passion for it and a love for it. So, I started the record label because I loved music, and really that's I consumed most of my time in my late teens and on. And then, starting and running Relapse was a really great experience. I learned so much during that whole process. And then when it came time to do something new, I thought, well, what else do I like? I like pizza, and thought, let's open a pizza place and let's infuse it with all the things that we love. So, my business partner and I just started thinking about what's the perfect pizza place for us and for Portland in that moment in time. One of the things that was uh, an inspiration is just the fact that we wanted more late night food options. Portland is a awesome city that had so many like cool shows and bars and things going on, but surprisingly there wasn't a ton of late night food options. And the idea of being able to grab a slice at almost any hour seemed really appealing. And we also thought that a lot of pizza places at that time in 2010, 11 had a vegan option. They usually only had a vegan option, and we wanted to come up with and offer a number of options, hopefully all thoughtful and delicious. And then we tried to combine our interest and love of music and art and beer and make it all in one place. So that's what Sizzle Pie. The idea was born, and then eventually it happened. We had an opportunity to sign a lease on East Burnside there, which we jumped at when we had the opportunity, because we were looking in that specific stretch was kind of where we were really wanting to open the business. And so we had this spot came up, and we just signed the lease, naively thinking that because we both had successful businesses that we could get a loan from the bank to finance the opening of this new business. And so we paid rent for 18 months on a space that was empty for part of the time, and in various stages of construction during other parts of the time, while we tried to wrangle up enough money to actually open the place. So there were some dark days during that 18 months of uncertainty, but eventually we made it. So.
Yeah. And what would you say was like one of the biggest takeaways from your experience with Relapse Records when starting Sizzle Pie as like a business owner?
So many. One is, I think, do what you love. I just following something I'm really passionate about makes it easy to dive in and to dedicate my all and to weather the storm during those stressful, difficult times that are inevitable. Also, I think, realizing the kind of network of people, friends, acquaintances, bands, everything that I established over the years with Relapse, and kind of what an impact that had with Sizzle Pie. Our bands on the label would come through town, or friends that are in bands would come through town, and we'd bring them to pizza or bring pizza to the gig. And I think that was part of the kind of word of mouth spreading in the early days around the world. We ended up pretty early on. There was a multi-page feature in the Swedish Rolling Stone about Sizzle Pie, and we were getting merch orders from Italy, and it was just crazy kind of how wide the word spread in the early days. And I feel like that was definitely connected to the music aspect and all the things that I kind of learned and developed relationships with folks and everything over the Relapse years. But so many other things. I learned so much about business and just how the world works, especially because I started Relapse as a teenager. So I learned a lot about the world as I grew older and matured and traveled and met people and so on.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like I love the cultural like influence on Sizzle Pie. Like all the pizzas are named after or allude to like music and cultural references, like Spiral Tap, right? It's like your vegan pizza, Buffalo 666, and the Old Dirty too, the Old Dirty ODB.
Yes.
Yeah. It's really fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah, and you could have excellent collaborations with artists too. Like Skinner did the mascot, or like the pizza face.
The pizza face.
The pizza
face.
We call
it. Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was awesome. And we worked with so many killer artists over the years, and more to come on that front. Again, we just kind of combined all the things that we love, and cool art and great music and great customer service, good pizza, it's so fun. Oh man, there's something I was gonna reference. I totally just spaced on. It'll come back to me.
Yeah. So obviously your atmosphere is exciting. The branding, everything is just so fun about it. but the product is so good too. You use like all natural ingredients. All pizzas are made like from like day of. So it's just
Yep.
like just an excellent, just like, you know, great slices, great pies, just award winning, and a fun environment. Like it's really just like just a wonderful place to be. So you just hit it out of the park. I just got to say, that wasn't really a question.
Well, I thank you for those kind words. That's awesome. You know, I was doing an interview some time ago, and and I think it was maybe similar to this. They're asking me about all my various business ventures and so on, and that was, I think, maybe around the time we had White Owl, which had done really well when we first opened, and so on. And they're like, "What's the secret of your success?" And I said, "Do it good." You know, we try to do it good. You know, like, let's have some good pizza and good atmosphere and good customer service and a good selection of beer, and you know, like, let's just try to do it well.
Yeah. So you own or started White Owl as well?
Yeah, we did start White Owl, and you know, a couple of years after we started it, we sold that. It was awesome in so many ways, but it was such a beast in that it was, you know, 9,000 square feet between the indoors and the outside, and the swing from dead to busy is so dramatic, and the staffing challenges of that much of a swing, and just having that much space. Essentially, it was an event space in so many ways, and so we had to program it to, you know, utilize it properly, and it just was all so much work. It was like having a music venue and a bar and a restaurant, and at the same time, or during that same time, we were expanding Sizzle Pie, and we just decided at that point it was better to focus on Sizzle Pie, and so we sold White Owl sometime back now. I think
Nice.
2015 we sold it, maybe.
Well, I've definitely been to White Owl a decent amount. That's definitely a fun venue. My friend Jaron George hosted like a comedy show out of there, and then of course I just went for the restaurant
Cool.
And the environment. You know, more so when I was younger.
Sure.
So Sizzle Pie's been expanding. How long ago did you open the location in Reno?
Man, I'm terrible with timelines. Gosh, I want to say it was 3 years ago is my best guess right offhand. And we were working on it for a while. Sadly, like most of our places, we've done the lease and then something has happened, or we haven't had access to the working capital, and we pay rent on an empty building for a year, which was the case there. We had a line of credit lined up with our bank at the time. We did the lease. We were getting ready to do the build out, and then they decided to take the line of credit away. So it was like, oh great, now we'll just pay rent on an empty building for a year. But anyway, we finally got that open, and that's been nice to have it. We have a really huge patio out there, which is really cool in that location.
Nice. Yeah, I saw some photos on your Instagram. It looks like it's, you know, could be worth a flight down to check it out. I am
think you'd have fun.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, all right, so you first, you know, started in Portland, went to Eugene, then Reno. How do you decided where to open up like the next restaurants and like that expansion strategy?
So there's actually some other locations that you left out, and
Okay.
you know, I understand you. If you blink, you could miss it. So when we opened the first Portland location, we really hadn't even thought about opening more locations. But 6 months later, I saw the spot across from Powell's available for lease, and I thought, man, that is a killer location. Like, I doubt we'll get it, but you know, we got to try. Like, when's this spot ever going to be available again? So we fortunately convinced the landlord to take a chance on us and open that spot. And then not long after that, I was down in Eugene for a different business project I was exploring at the time, and I ended up downtown, and this electrician that I knew was showing me these light fixtures he made in some bars down there. And I was just walking around downtown, and it just felt like it was in the middle of change. You know, there was like a few new businesses, a couple storefronts that were like under construction, or the windows were papered because they were doing work there. And it just felt like, it just had this energy, like something's happening here. And it was like, felt like, maybe there should be a pizza place here that's open late. And so that was just like a kind of happenstance in a way, and I just felt like, oh, this is interesting. And I saw this one building that looked like it'd be a really great location. It turns out that the owner of the building is a Portland company that does development. They actually are responsible for the early waves of the adaptive reuse for the old buildings in the Central East Side here in Portland. And I used to be involved with the Central East Side Urban Renewal Committee and the Land Use Committee for the blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so I knew him, and it was like everything lined up, and we opened in Eugene. But part of the thought when opening in Eugene was, this is a couple of hours away, more than a couple hours away. If we can make this work, as a remote operation, then maybe we can make someplace even further work. So we did Eugene, and it went great. And then we thought, Seattle, let's go to Seattle. So we did that. We opened up in Capitol Hill in Seattle, and initially it did really well. And yeah, then eventually, and now I'm really glad we decided when our lease was up for renewal, just before the pandemic, we decided not to renew it because our business frankly had slowed down there. And I think that we had some challenges with some of our previous management there that weren't necessarily apparent to us soon enough. And maybe that led to some poor customer service, which maybe led to some customers having bad experiences, which maybe led to people not coming back. All hypotheses. But our sales had slowed, and there was more competition than ever. And Seattle is way more expensive than Portland, which has gotten a lot more expensive. And so not only was our lease going to go up, but if we were to stay, we would have to put $50,000 into a new HVAC system. And it was just like, it just didn't look like a great scenario forward. So we decided to not renew the lease there. And the pandemic came on not long after, which I'm so glad we didn't have that location to pay rent on during the pandemic, because the pandemic's certainly been challenging. But we also had a quick experiment in Brooklyn as well, with a couple locations there. And man, and in another conversation, I could tell you about all the things we did wrong there. But basically, we took over small pizza places that were already there and didn't have the best locations. But really, the thing that surprised us, we really tried to prepare ourselves, and I think prepared ourselves in so many ways. But what we weren't prepared for was the labor market. The labor market was very different there than we had ever experienced, and the number of employees that ghosted us was just staggering and shocking. And it just was completely unstable because we just couldn't get and keep people. And a whole bunch of other crap. But long story short, we closed those too, and learned a lot. But and Reno we chose because our friends from CC's here in town had been working on opening the place there, and they were really saying like what a good vibe there was in Reno. And through them we met the landlord developers that they worked with, who were really cool guys doing really cool redevelopment in kind of parts of town that weren't obvious to regular developers. These guys are more creative guys, and they were doing like cool creative developments of properties, and they were curating their tenants, and it was just a cool vibe. So we decided let's do it. So there we are.
Yeah. So yeah, COVID has been definitely devastating, especially to the restaurant industry and food and beverage. I'm curious, and I know a couple of things, but what's Sizzle Pie done to help keep customers coming in to work on marketing and just making sure people are still buying pizza throughout the pandemic?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the first thing we've done is tried to create the safest environment possible for not only our customers, but for our staff. And it's part of the reason that we aren't open, our lobbies aren't open today. We still have just slice windows. And we've been, really focused on delivery and carry out, and our third party delivery, Postmates and DoorDash and all that stuff has certainly increased during this time. But overall business took a nosedive when we had to close our lobbies, and there's no bar business. There's just so many aspects of our business that we were doing well with before the pandemic that are absent now. When they implemented the curfew, we had to start closing at 10 p.m. when we used to be open till 3 a.m. every day and 4 a.m. on the weekends. So we're missing that many hours of business every day. And then of course the things that brought us business at that time of night are gone. All the shows and all the nightlife, all that stuff is gone. So it's been brutal. And what have we done? We've just tried to hold it together. Number one, it's been really, really challenging. Fortunately, there's been the PPP and those kind of things which have helped us stay alive. And we've just kind of tried to double down on our approach, was keep it fun. And, despite these negative times, just try to stay connected with people on social media. And yeah, we have a few things that are in the works I'm really excited about, some new menu items and so on. We were hoping to have them out by now, but of course there's always just unanticipated delays for all kinds of reasons. We've also made an investment in upgrading our technology. So we have a new POS and new online ordering system and a new mobile app, which just launched a couple of weeks ago. We're still really kind of rolling it out. We haven't publicized it heavily because we wanted to make sure it's working properly and everything. There's always a couple bugs here and there, but it's going pretty smooth overall. I'm excited to kind of push that out further. And and that kind of ties into our pizza party points program, where you can earn free pizza and merch and other things just by eating at Sizzle Pie. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, I actually downloaded the app earlier this week and immediately got some free knots, free garlic, cinnamon, and regular knots. So yes, still gotta get them. But that's exciting. If you're listening to this podcast, if you have iOS or whatever the other one is, go download the Sizzle Pie app right now.
Yes.
All right. So I'm curious, what's your favorite slice of pizza at Sizzle Pie? Do you have a favorite? How do you even choose?
Yeah, I do have a favorite. I mean, there's obviously a lot that I like, but in a lot of ways, I'm a simple guy and I go for the classics. I love what we call the D beat, just our classic cheese pizza. That's my go-to most of the time, whether I'm getting a slice or a whole pie. There's plenty of other ones that I like. I love the South Heaven. There's so many others, of course, that I'm into, but the D beat is my standby and my go-to. I also think, as for the record, as someone actually shortly after we opened Sizzle Pie, I was telling one of my best friends in another part of the country, like, yeah, we opened, it's doing good. He hadn't come here or anything yet because he's in Raleigh. But after I was telling him how well received it had been initially, he said, well, I'm not surprised given your lifelong academic approach to pizza consumption. Because I've always been so into pizza and I'm always kind of studying it. Like when I get a slice or when I see it in a slice case, I'm always analyzing all the elements so I think the cheese slice is the best test of pizza place. Sometimes there can be pies that kind of excel outside of their category, if you will, even though their cheese slice is not very good. But for the most part, the cheese is the ultimate test in my mind.
Yeah, that's the base. One of my go-tos is the Ace of Spades, which is the pepperoni pizza.
Sure.
And that's another good test, another classic,
Totally.
And on the box it says Sizzle Pie, home of the old dirty, right? So what is that like an award-winning slice by itself?
Yeah, I mean, that has been a really well-received slice, although to tell you the truth, we had that design on the box pretty much before we even had much feedback. And it was just because we thought it was a great name. And it is, I think, a really great combination that's pretty distinct. But it has been, that slice and that pie is one of our more popular ones for sure.
Nice. Well, Matt, thanks again for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. And,
my pleasure. And if you haven't already, you'll have to check out the brewery I'm involved with as well. We've got a spot near the original Sizzle Pie, really, on Southeast 2nd there. It's a place called Wayfinder Beer. And even if you don't like beer, we have an awesome 2,000 square foot patio with a fire pit. So you should check that out.
I'll go there with some friends this weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, we don't open until April 1st. We've been closed because of the winter and the pandemic. But actually, it's April 2nd we're reopening. So.
Yeah. Well, Wayfinder used to have a location on the east side, right? Or
it is on the east side. It's the only location we've ever had. And so if you've been there, then you've already been there. But it's it's on Southeast 2nd, just not far from the Burnside Bridge.
Nice. Yeah. No. Wayfinder has some good beers. I've definitely enjoyed it before, and I'm excited for it to open back up as well.
Cool.
Well, thanks again for coming on, Matt.
Cool. Well, hey. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for listening. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Have a good one.
Cheers.